eBay friends. I'm Suzanne, your hostess, and this is episode number 223 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is June 25th, 2025. My guest is Mindy, who is an active poster on the Money Making Mondays threads and has been a member of my group since 2020. So it was wonderful to finally meet her in person, well, as in person as we can get with a Zoom call. No announcements today, so we will jump right in.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back. I have what seems to be the sewing pattern expert with us today, Mindy. And how are you doing this morning?
Fine, thank you. How are you, Suzanne?
I am great. So let's start off with the business part of where you are.
Okay. You mean where I live?
Yeah, where do you live?
I live in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. That is in eastern Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And it is maybe 3 miles from the New Jersey border.
Oh.
60 miles from Philadelphia, and about 80 miles from New York City.
Okay. So you're positioned at, is that called the tri-state area or the?
Yes, and I'm actually in the Lehigh Valley.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you heard me say this along the way, but my dad worked for Lehigh Cement Company in, I think, the late 60s, before some of my siblings were born. And so when he worked there, he was in sales. And so he had all these boxes of notepads that had "Don't forget Lehigh" on them. And we used those for years in our house, leave notes and grocery lists and all that stuff. So that's my only connection to the Lehigh Valley.
Well, I have to tell you something very ironic. I am retired and the first woman in the country to take a full pension from Hercules Cement Company, now called Bootsy Unichem, because I live in the cement belt, which encompassed a Lehigh cement plant. I was in, there were 3 cement plants in my immediate area, and I spent 31 years of my life, hence why I worked so early in the morning.
Okay, yeah. She was saying that she gets up between 3:30 and 4 because you always did. And as a retired person, your body's just used to that, and that's when you wake up.
Exactly.
Well, if you talk to somebody long enough, you will find things in common. And so how about the Lehigh Cement Company?
Absolutely.
Okay, now, next big question is, how did you get involved with eBay?
Well, I actually started in selling on eBay part-time in 1997, I believe, or 98. My computers took up a whole desk. I remember
Okay,
that.
right, yep.
And I actually started selling little golden books that my mother had given to me. It was something different, something to try. And I'm not very techy, but I did figure out how to sell and how to buy online. Um, and I did rather well with those golden books. So from there, I graduated to Nancy Drew books and the Hardy Boys.
Okay.
And back in those days, we didn't have a lot of things like Google to look everything up. And I used to go to public sales where you still went in person to this sale. And I bought box lots of books. And in a box lot of golden books, I found sewing patterns. And
Okay.
that's how I started on patterns. And the first one was a Vogue Diane von Furstenberg. It was number 1610. And I checked it all out, checked online. There weren't a lot. I sold it for $125.
Now, when was this?
Probably in 98 or 99.
Way back at the beginning. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And that hooked me. I stopped
I
selling
can
little
see
golden books.
why.
And I would sell full sets of Nancy Drew, so it was a lot easier to carry a sewing pattern to the USPS than taking a box full of books.
I can imagine, right? Well, I noticed on the past few Money Making Mondays and where you post your sales on the group, you had several sewing patterns that sold for good money, and maybe you paid a quarter for them and they sold for $30 or more.
Yes, I there are bolos out there that I look for. Anything religious, like the priest
Yes,
robes
the
and things like
clergyman outfit. Yes.
mhm. Choir robes. That's another good one. Um, I think sometimes I could go higher on them, but I feel guilty because they're going to a church.
Yeah. Got to
I
keep
hope
it in
I'll
check
forgive
there,
me.
keep it fair, right?
Right, right. So I
Powers that
usually
be will be like, yeah, we're not going to send you any customers because your price is
right.
too high.
But dear St. Peter, I gave them free shipping. What do you want?
Right. Well,
But
that is a great tip. Um, and they're not just for Halloween, they're for, plays or theater or what else? Just what else could they be used for?
actual, maybe plays, right? Like you said,
Mhm.
or movies. I've
Right.
sold some sewing patterns that I'm pretty sure went to uh, costume designers and such
I
in New
see.
York
Okay.
City, right, for Broadway. And a lot of movies and TV shows are also shot in Manhattan. And
Right.
uh, and some have gone to California, to Hollywood. So that's always fun. And
Right.
but I have deviated from the patterns a lot. I do like selling other crafting items and making group lots to sell.
Now, are you a seamstress?
No.
So you just figured this out.
Yes, I wish I could sew better, but I'm not very good at it. So I like doing this part.
Yeah, I had a Martha Stewart phase when before my kids were born. And I just decided I'm gonna learn how to sew, and got a sewing machine and asked some friends that were good at it, like for tips and show me how to do things. And number one, I didn't have the patience for it, uh,
Right.
because if it's not right, you got to take it apart and do it again. And I just seemed to do everything crooked. Um, and it was just not something I enjoyed. And I applaud anybody that has the patience for it and can make these beautiful things, basically from scratch, with just the pattern, the piece of paper telling you what to do. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of like you. I gave it a try, but
Right.
just it wasn't for me. And then the internet came along, and I really didn't want to do it anymore. So I did make like things that didn't matter if they were perfect, like kids' Halloween costumes and little craft items and pillows and stuff like that. But like to make clothes, to actually wear,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, that was not my thing at all.
Yeah.
Martha Stewart would be ashamed of me.
Me too.
So, do you know if you can go online and print patterns now,
Yeah. Yes, you can.
but people still want the old ones because they can't find what they're looking for, or they just like to do it that way?
Well, there actually are collectors of old patterns, especially patterns from the 40s, 50s, and
Okay.
60s. I like to tell people who are searching for them if they are resellers, but it's not their domain, but they're going to look while they're there for me. The lower the original price, the better the pattern is for me because
Really?
a lot of the old patterns from the 40s were 25 cents or 10 cents, but they're hard to come by anymore because they used them during World War II when everything was rationed, including toilet paper.
Mm-hmm.
People weren't wasteful like we are today. Back
Right.
in those days, if the women bought a sewing pattern, they actually used it to make a dress, and they took meat wrapping paper from the butcher. They traced the pattern because the patterns are made out of very thin tissue paper, even
Right.
thinner back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the pattern to use over and over again, but they used the original sewing pattern for toilet paper.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's a very fascinating piece of history.
My mother gave me that piece of
Oh,
information.
she did.
My
Okay.
late mother, yes, yes.
Okay.
So,
Well, I'm really getting into the history of these items. I don't know if you saw those letters I sold. I've been buying box lots of old handwritten letters
nice.
because I know people sell them and the value depends on the time period, the content of the letter. So I'm reading all of them. And that's kind of like become like a hobby. Like I'm going to read 5 or 6 letters while I eat my dinner or whatever it is. And just the things people talk about, but some of them, the letters in the 1930s lot were just written on anything. A piece of a grocery bag, the back of a piece of mail, or
Hmm.
a flyer, or blank space on a newspaper, just whatever they could find,
Hmm.
because they didn't have money to buy paper. I
Exactly.
guess they were using their money to buy the stamp, which was, most of them were 2 cents.
Hmm.
Everything's written in pencil because I guess they didn't have fountain pens, and ballpoint pens hadn't come along yet, or that's what they had, was a pencil. So it's not only the content of the letter, it's all those aspects of it too. And I'm really just fascinated by the history. And I feel like, I hope teachers are buying these because, well, the students aren't going to be able to read cursive, but what an interesting way to learn about history. Like, somebody wrote this letter and this is what they said. And instead
Absolutely.
of reading it in a book and looking at pictures of, you know, most of the history we learned in school was about dates and, when this war happened. And it wasn't like the personal side. So I get where these collectors are coming from.
Hmm.
They want all this personal history, whether it's for genealogy or just, it's fascinating to read. It's like reading a book.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Yeah. So back to your point about the sewing patterns, I don't think we will ever fully grasp what people went through during the Great Depression. Like, what they just had to figure it out,
Yes,
they and use what you had and conserve. And um, I'm just fascinated with that time period because these people were survivors. They were tough.
absolutely.
You look at our society today and it's like wasteful and convenient and easy and over consumerism and all this stuff. I totally got off topic there, but I think maybe I'll start looking for old sewing patterns. I did that at one time and I had no idea what to buy,
Aha.
um, because it's pretty overwhelming if you don't know anything about it.
Exactly. I'm still learning every day.
Do you look for them everywhere you go?
Yes, that's a priority. Sewing patterns and the embroidery hoops, the older ones.
Yes.
I've found two of them out in the wild.
Did you
The
find the
queen,
queen embroidery
yes,
hoop?
I
You
have sold
did?
two of them. Yes,
Did
and
did I put that on one of my videos?
yes,
Okay, several people had found them, and I just, they're out. For the listeners, they are, well, why don't you explain why they're special?
uh, the tension on them. What I believe the special part is, not only are they vintage, very vintage, they're wood. Some of them are made out of mahogany, I believe. The darker
Really?
ones. I have yet to find a darker wood type, but the tension is the round dial, and then they have on the dial queen. I believe
Mm-hmm.
there are also duchess. I have a duchess, but they're not worth as much.
Okay.
Um, I don't embroider, so I don't know what the concept is. All I know is when you find one, and I was checking this morning. They have gone up significantly in price.
They
They're
were
over
around $300. Is that
they're over $450 now, a
okay?
lot of them.
Okay,
Yes.
that's good to know
Yes.
because
And they sell quick, like in an hour, they're gone.
and the people that find them explain, oh, this was at the bottom of a sewing bag.
Yeah.
This was in with a bunch of craft supplies. Like it's not something that is being sold on its own at estate sales. It's usually mixed in with other stuff, and it's a surprise when you get home and it's in there.
Absolutely.
Is that what happened to
Absolutely.
you?
The last one I found that you had featured on the front of $100 and plus sales.
Okay, okay.
That was the second one I found, and that went to Japan, I believe. Someone in Japan bought that. Uh, I was at a church rummage right up the street from me, and I had just passed a YouTube influencer from my area. I'm sure a lot of your subscribers watch her also, Tina from Gemini Thrifts.
Okay.
And I wasn't standing in line where I usually converse with her in the morning. I passed her in an aisle, and it's funny because she and I like embroidery things also. She does too. And I thought, oh, Tina was right ahead of me, so there's probably nothing good left. And as we were exchanging, good mornings to each other, I looked past her and I saw in a baggie 2 embroidery hoops, and I knew the one had the round dial. And I just completely stopped talking to her and went over because until maybe a few weeks ago, I finally told Tina about them, and she did not know anything about those embroidery hoops. So now she does. But it was in a bag with a bigger one that wasn't worth anything for 50 cents. So that was a snag. And I tried not to scream or yell out a squeak. I just very quickly went through the rest of the sale looking for a few things because I'm trying to downsize. And I don't want to call it a death pile. The older you get, the less you use that term. I call it my money mountain. Yes. And we all have them. My money mountain is about to shrink drastically. I'm having a huge yard sale on June
Okay.
22nd. But I quickly got out of that church basement and went right home and listed it, and within a half an hour it was sold. So that's my favorite kind of thing to
And
find.
what price did you sell it for?
That one I sold for, was that $350, I think.
And are craft supplies, sewing supplies your main focus?
They have become now. I finally have decided on just a few things that I'm concentrating on, and people are buying supplies for crafting online like crazy. And I don't know if it's because Joanne has closed or the financial situation that people are just staying home more and turning to crafting, and they're trying to save money to buy groceries. And all I know is it's working for me, and I'm a
They're
small
not
time seller.
they're not saving a lot of money if they're buying $300 embroidery hoops.
Oh no, no. Well, they were both from different countries, so maybe they have it better.
Well,
Where
that's true. That's true. It's there's such a dichotomy there of frugal people and then people who will pay up for these rare vintage antique items, whatever. And I see sellers making assumptions, cause and effect assumptions all the time. Well, nobody's buying anything right now because of the economy and this and that and the other. And then over here you've got people selling things for hundreds of dollars that are completely non-essential items. They're collectibles.
right,
And so I just don't think you can make those kind of generalizations. It's really you spend money on what's important to you,
exactly,
and that's different for everybody. So
right,
if your sales are slow, don't assume, oh, people aren't buying, it's the July slowdown or whatever it is, because go look at completed listings over the last 30 days and you'll see what's selling. And yes, people spend money on what they want to spend money on. Maybe they don't go out to dinner anymore. Maybe they buy collectibles instead, or maybe they have a certain allowance they give themselves to spend every month, or they're looking for that one specific thing and they've got an alert set up. And like that embroidery hoop, maybe they had an alert set up,
Absolutely.
alerted that you listed it, and they snagged it immediately. Yeah. So
Good thing.
I quit analyzing stuff and just focus on what's selling and do more of that.
Yes. I like to watch Justin Resells. He likes to educate on keeping track of your sales and those things. And I just don't do that. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is only a part-time thing. I used to do it for the extras.
Mm-hmm.
Now I actually have to sell to help pay the heating bills in the wintertime.
Right.
And if I'm a huge baseball fan, and living so close to Philadelphia, I can take bus trips there. But that has to come from eBay money, from sales, and Craigslist. I also sell on Craigslist, bigger
Okay.
items. And I have no luck on Facebook Marketplace. All I get is
Yeah, I
scam.
don't either. I think it depends on where you live and
Yeah.
how
Aha.
robust the marketplace is.
Yes.
Just aren't,
Uh-huh.
and all of that, because I tried it several times in several locations where I've lived, and I just can't get any traction on it.
I seem to think in my area, if you're selling things for children, clothing, just toys, different toys for children, that seems to go pretty good. Things I have, not so much. So
Okay. Oh, here's the word I was looking for. This is senior moment. What was your professional career before you retired?
I was a licensed weighmaster at Hercules Cement Company. I loaded trucks on scales.
Oh, really? Okay. So there wasn't any sales or bookkeeping or anything like that.
No, actually, when I was in high school, I went to our vocational technical school and took distributive education, which was all forms of wholesale and retail selling. And it did help me as far as loading trucks and dealing with customers every day. But before the cement mill, I worked as a cashier at ShopRite. That was my first
Okay.
full-time job. So I always worked in sales. My father was a salesman. So I don't know if I was pushing toward that. I'm the only person who said, no, I don't want to go to college. Everybody else in my family went to college. I
Okay.
wanted to be a union worker and work with my hands. So I did a short gig at Bethlehem Steel in the plant in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. That was a scary place to work, huge,
Oh.
and attended bar.
Okay. Well, and Pennsylvania is known for the steel industry.
Absolutely. And
So,
cement, and cement. We
right.
have
Okay.
very rich limestone, although it's being depleted. At one time, there were 42 cement mills in my area.
Oh,
And
gosh.
yes, way before I was born. Lehigh was the king of them, where your father
What
was.
year? What year were you born?
I was born in 1955.
Okay, so you're baby boomer.
Yes, yes, I am.
Okay.
And I always liked the concept of selling on eBay. They were in '97 when I started. I can't remember the name I went under because eBay shows. I think that I've been a member since 2001,
Mm-hmm.
and that's so vintage, lady. That's what I morphed into, and I am still so vintage, lady. SEW, and I part time on eBay for me is full time. That's a full
Mm-hmm.
time job. I detest listing, as I understand many people do, but I'm getting better at it. I
I know. I don't know what it is. I had a listing day yesterday, so I put on some of my favorite movies just to hear them in the background. The way I was doing it yesterday was take the picture, list the item. Take the picture, list the item, instead of doing these big batches of items and photographing them, because they just sit there and they don't get
yeah
listed. It's whatever system works for you. But I did get I was doing those horse ribbons yesterday and lotting them up, and that takes a little bit longer than just, listing one thing. 10 or 12 listings done, and that was good for me. I can't do that every day. It's just I need more variety in my day.
Yes. Well, you know what? I want to enjoy and go out and do things with friends and go to baseball games. And I live very close to a AAA affiliate of the Phillies, maybe 20 miles away. And it's not expensive to go there. So I like to go there. And I am supposed to be retired, but I think I'll be selling on eBay until they shut the coffin lid on me.
Oh, that's funny.
Because the
Well,
mortician
but
will be
there's
pushing the
there's no
bill in.
reason to stop if you love it.
Right, and I
And
do love it.
you've refined your business to a point now where it sounds like you're shipping small things that aren't too time consuming or energy consuming to pack. How many items do you have in your store?
Today I'm at 116, which is
Okay.
very high for me. I'm over 100. I can't believe I hit 100. And I sell consistently for that small amount. But when I do stop for a couple of days, I should pre-schedule at least one item a day I'm not going to list. But I don't do that, and I pay for that because
Yeah.
I realize if you don't list, you're probably not going to sell for a few days.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I am slow. I am slow at listing. I
But
try.
you don't need the pressure of a job where you have to have speed. Um, sure, take your time. You're
Right.
retired. You don't need that kind of pressure. You don't need that kind of negativity in your life where you have
Right.
to put pressure on yourself. You've already done that. Do you have children and grandchildren?
No, no, I
Okay.
actually have no one left. I have friends. My sister and I don't
So
talk.
your life is all about you, and that's great.
Yeah.
And you can do what you want. And I love that. No pressure. No pressure. Now, wait, I just had a thought drop in about the sewing patterns because you did mention something about cut versus uncut. So, if it's cut and all the pieces are there, is that going to be a problem, or do people want the uncut ones?
It depends on the pattern. The gunny sacks, as long and from that time period, patterns usually only came in one size, which that was
Mm-hmm.
a size 14. So it
Oh,
was cut in a size 14. But many of the patterns, I'd say from the mid to late 80s on till today, have three or more sizes. And say somebody cuts the smallest size of a pattern, then that's it. No one in any of the other sizes could use that pattern. So but a very special pattern, it doesn't matter. As long as you count those pieces, that's time consuming.
right. Well,
So,
and for the listeners that have never explored sewing, like you said, it comes in three sizes. Well, it's still one piece of paper, and there's like dotted lines, and you cut the size you want. So it's not like three separate patterns in there. Once it's cut, it's cut.
right.
Yeah.
I and they're so easy to list.
Yes.
That's one thing I like, and I can put them in the regular USPS box. I don't have to go into the post office. I can ship
Right.
on a Sunday. Just throw it in the box and it's gone. Um, easy in and out. So I'm very picky about what I buy though. But I have a place where I like to go and I can clean them out of sewing patterns every 2 weeks when I go there and they're 25 cents. I might hit a sale day where I get two for 25 cents.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I get them, if it's not a pattern that's worth a whole lot by itself, I lot them together, maybe 50 or 60. And I'm actually feeding other people, resellers will buy from me. I have a lot of repeat buyers when I do that. And I can usually sell them anywhere from $40 to $50, plus they pay the shipping. Um, that's fun to do. And yeah, sewing patterns are a good thing to start picking up. And newer ones that are uncut, I that's what I sell in lot in a bulk lot. So
What kind of things are problematic? Do you ever get returns or people claiming that pieces are missing, or what kind of problems have you encountered?
not ever any with the sewing pattern.
Really?
Knocking on wood.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yes, but I'm trying to get away from breakables because that has been, and I've only had 3 or 4 of them. I've been lucky. And sometimes I think you can overdo it on packing. Maybe I caused a tension spot when the box landed the wrong way. I do like selling coffee mugs. That's another
Mhm.
thing I do like to pick up. But I've set a ground rule. If I'm not going to net 20 plus dollars, I'm not going to list it anymore. That's probably why, I mean, for my death pile, I'm pulling lesser things because, as Tina pointed out to me one day, sometimes those bread and butter items can carry you through if other things aren't selling. And she is
Right.
so correct. And I think about that every time I pull something out, but I'm only going to make $8 on this if I'm lucky. Well, I have 5 of them, so I'm going to think positive. If I sell all
Right.
5, that's $40. That's cat
Right.
food for the
Right.
month, right? So, sewing things are fun. Along the way, I've just been very lucky when you see me put things like that Canon Power Shot that I just sold. That was the
Right.
first one I ever found for $5, and it had a lot of extras. And I was lucky I was able to turn it on to prove that it worked. It's not my
Hmm.
thing, but no one else picked it up. And I always have something like that every month. So
Good.
it helps carry you through and keeps you motivated when you find things like that.
Can you recall a sewing pattern that sold for the most?
That Diane von Furstenberg for me.
The very first one.
Yeah. And I've had several others from designers from that time period. I just can't remember them.
Right. Right. Okay.
Those are getting hard to find too. The larger designer Vogue patterns.
Hmm.
Because actually the Diane von Furstenberg pattern dropped drastically in price because the sewing pattern companies are reintroducing like the retro and they're
Right.
selling them again. And I just looked
Oh,
this morning and that Diane von Furstenberg, there's only one listing on eBay, the same age as mine was, uncut with the sewing label from Vogue included. And she has it listed for $115 and it's not selling. I don't know how long it's been there,
hmm.
but there must be 40 of them sold from the new ones that they introduced, the Vogue.
Well, if you go to the eBay research and search for it and go to the active listings instead of the sold listings, you can see the date it was listed.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you have to add columns or if it's just automatically there, but I look at that too. If I have something similar that I know is going to be a, long tail item, I'll look for other people that have it and, okay, well, how long has it been there? But maybe they don't have best offer on it.
Right.
Maybe they aren't one of these people that sends offers. I know sellers like that. Their price is their price. And even if it shows up in send offer, because send offer has nothing to do with whether you offer best offer or not. It's just a different thing. So they just don't send offers. And I think you can see, if you go to the active listing, you can see how many people are watching it. The
Mm-hmm.
little heart in the top right hand corner of the photos. So that'll give you an indication of other people that might have it that haven't listed it yet. Yeah, that eBay research can be helpful for active listings as well.
Oh,
Okay. Well, do you want to talk about some of your other sales?
yes. You had in your email to me your most memorable sale.
Okay.
It's a good one. You might have to edit it out. I went to a church rummage at the church I go to in Nazareth. This was in 2015. And my mother used to always help set up the rummage sales. It's the church
Okay.
I grew up in. And she was actually too old at that point. She was probably 90 years old. And I went and I was looking around and I was buying decks of cards. That used to be a hot item to sell, vintage decks. And I saw a little deck in a clear box, and all I saw on it was Cartier. I'll take a chance on that. I didn't know a whole lot about cards, like playing cards. I picked it up. It was 50 cents. Put it in my bag. Came home and I started looking at things. Opened this up and I said, "Oh my gosh, what do I have here?" And I did a search on eBay. They were actually called Casanova cards. There's a lot of French to it. They're actually pornographic ink drawings by a famous French artist. And I listed them immediately for $350 because these were brand new, never used. Plus, I gave free shipping, and it wasn't within 15 minutes they were sold.
Oh, yeah.
A dealer bought them for. And
Oh, okay.
there were sets that were selling for 500, 600. But when I pay so little, I want a quick flip.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted that $350. And the the man who bought them was from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, which is about 80 miles from where I live. And I I forget what he said to me in an email. He said, "You do know how much these are really worth?" And I said, "Yes, I do. I just found them at a church rummage sale, and I just wanted to flip them." And I said, "I hope you don't get mad at me, but I'll tell you what I paid for them." And he said, "Please, you won't, because I'm probably going to double my money when I sell them, resell them." I said, "I paid 50 cents for them." He said, "At a church rummage sale, you found this deck of cards." I said, "Yes." He said, "Now I'm going to have to go to church rummage sales. Who would have ever thought?" Well, I told my mother about it. And the first thing she said was, "I wonder who donated them." And I said, "Probably the minister." And she said, "No, no, and that I just never thought I would pick up something that was of a pornographic nature. They were nudes. It's called Casanova nudes or something like that.
But that sells the best on different types of ephemera like matchbook covers and yeah, the playing cards, the swizzle sticks, any
Yes,
of those kind of things with the nudes are more valuable.
the old calendars
Mm-hmm.
from the 50s.
Right?
And if you find Marilyn Monroe on anything, you probably are going to make a fortune. A
As
true to
long
life.
as it's as true vintage and not a reproduction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, that was my most memorable. I will never forget the deck of cards, the nudes from the church rummage sale.
That doesn't really go together. Nude cards at a church sale. But just shows you that anything can be anywhere.
Exactly.
And I love those church sales because just all kinds of stuff gets donated. And if you visit the same thrift stores over and over, you kind of see the same stuff over and over.
Yes.
Those church sales, it's just like a wild card. It's just like anything could be there.
You better believe it. And if it's a church near me in my immediate area, I go in the very beginning, and then I will return either later on that day or the next day if they have it 2 days when the crowds are gone, because there are things under the tables that
Right.
are missed. because it's so crowded. Half the time you can't bend over to do anything, let alone to see what's under the table. And I always find really choice items that a lot of people overlook. Maybe that's what it is. I pick up things that no one else really wants. And sometimes I'm surprised. Sometimes I already know.
Right. Well, and also estate sales too. They'll have boxes of things under the tables, and as things sell out, they'll put more stuff on top of the tables. So
Exactly.
like their replenishments, and so maybe people aren't even looking through them yet. And so
Right.
it gets put up on the table.
Something I'm looking for now, I just picked this up for maybe a quarter. Irish Spring original.
Yes,
You know
original.
about that?
Okay. Um, no, did they change the formula?
Yes, actually in 1986, and I didn't know that, they added flaxseed oil and it changed the aroma,
Okay.
and people don't like it as much. But there are others. The men's sport is also, that actually sells for quite a bit of money. I was surprised. I buy Irish Spring and put it in my garage every fall to keep mice out.
Yeah, mice don't like it. So does that vintage box have a date on it?
No, I haven't found it yet, but it does not have flaxseed oil in it.
Oh, you're looking at the ingredients.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So as long as it doesn't have flaxseed oil, I'm going to be picking them up and selling them as a lot. And my garage smells really nice.
Well, I remember when Coast deodorant soap came out, and it was like the eye opener, and the guy in the shower like helping him wake up in the morning, and but those really heavily scented soaps from back in the day, terrible for your skin. They're just
Oh,
dry out
absolutely.
your skin so much. I mean, they do smell good, but in our toxic world, like back then, we didn't have all this attention to toxic ingredients. People just
No.
use stuff, you know. But I don't think the Coast is worth anything. I've seen that Irish Spring and wondered what's different about it. Why is the older one different? So now we
Well,
know.
I had to research it because I thought the same thing. And I don't know what, I just get into the habit of everything I bring into the house, I look it up on eBay, because this was actually just going to be kept in stock for when the fall comes up. And
Okay.
when I saw the prices, I was, oh my gosh. But the things people spend money on.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Lever Brothers soap, Lever 2000 or whatever that one was, there's something special about the old ones of those too, because I've seen those sell for a lot.
Oh,
So, well, you just are knowledgeable in all kinds of categories, aren't you?
enough to be dangerous, I guess, or lucky. Let's say lucky, because friends will call me up all the time and say, Mindy, I found this up in my attic. What do you think
Oh,
of this? And I have fun because sometimes I will know a little bit about it, or I'll look it up for them. Um, that's fun. I like to find practical things though.
right.
That's
Well, and
and
the
yeah,
unique
yes,
things that
yes,
you don't have a lot of competition on. It's
right,
just that the item is unique and the buyer likes it for that reason. It's the marketplace. How many of
absolutely,
them are out there? And
yes,
that's a huge decision maker for me. If I find something and there's only one or two or zero listed, but yet there are completed solds. So that tells me it's desirable.
yes, absolutely. I started going to estate and yard sales. I don't do a lot of yard sales, but if there is crafting and sewing involved, I'll go buy them out, whatever they have.
Mm-hmm.
And I just recently did that at actually one of my neighbors. The nephew was selling his late aunt's sewing stash, and I made him an offer and he took it. there were a lot of good sewing patterns in it. And I actually made my money back immediately from the sewing patterns. All the rest were in those Sterling drawers on wheels. I think I brought 10 of them filled with you and all kinds of sewing notions, crafting notions. And I'm in the process of breaking them all down into lots that crafters will buy. I went on and started to do some research on it, and it's a good moneymaker. And I never was a person who went and bought out anything anywhere, but I'm learning to
I
do.
think over time we build up some courage to buy bigger lots or more expensive things. You have to have some success before you feel comfortable doing that. And
Mhm.
it's taken me a long time to get to the point where I'm okay with spending the money on whatever, lots of things or one specific thing. I go both ways. I like just like one thing, just list that and sell it. But then I also
Mhm.
like lots if I feel like there could be a few valuable things in there. It's worth my time to go through it.
Absolutely.
But, some people say, "Oh, I just love going through junk boxes and picking out stuff." Well, yes and no. It just depends on the possible return on your investment of both money and time.
Yes.
So, I did not like the dollhouse furniture.
No, I don't get into
That
that
was too
either.
small. It didn't resonate with me. Like these letters and old stuff, I can't wait to dig in there and see what's in there.
Yes, I just found in my money making pile uh, a huge lot of old Christmas cards, Easter cards. It was a
Mm-hmm.
whole mix. I remember I bought them through Facebook Marketplace, and I did sell one lot of them. I broke it down, and I forgot about them. And in there were cards that were sent home during World War II
Mm-hmm.
to his mother. It was local, and I enjoyed reading his note
Mm-hmm.
that he added, and they were military cards that they actually sent home, and that was very interesting. So I understand where you're coming from there.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not just, oh, this is going to be more valuable. I truly enjoy reading over the history, um, and just comparing their lives to our lives and how different the world is.
Yes,
And we'll never know because we weren't alive back then. We didn't know.
right.
And sometimes movies and TV are just not accurate.
No.
So, okay, well, we've been going almost an hour. Do you have any final words for the listeners?
Watch how much you buy if you're just starting out. That's my advice. And you don't have to take everything home because
Right.
you'll regret it when you end up with too much stuff. Um, that's what I'm going through right now. So I'm being very productive these 30 days in June. And I think if I hadn't have done that, what would I be doing with this time?
Mm-hmm.
So that is my only regret with reselling, that I went overboard after I retired.
Mm-hmm.
Just filling up bags at estate sales and things. There's no reason to do that. Pick a few things and be good at those.
Right. Because there's always more coming.
That's right.
Have
It
you
was
ever
a real pleasure. And
have you ever had a time where like you couldn't find anything to sell?
no, I always have something to sell.
Yeah. When I was doing the eBay coaching back it was like 2009 to 2014, sometimes people would say, "I can't find anything to sell." And I was like, "Where are you going?"
Yeah,
And they just didn't have their eBay glasses on.
right,
It was overwhelming. They didn't know what to pick. It wasn't that there weren't things to buy. They had trouble making the decisions of what to buy.
right,
I just don't think we will ever not have anything to sell.
right. During COVID, I went out and started picking garbage again. And I got creative there because I had a lot of smaller things I could list, but I didn't have that thrill of the hunt. So I went out and picked garbage, and I found beautiful mid-century furniture, teak
Oh, really?
furniture. On the people were cleaning up family members who passed, and they couldn't really do anything on the lockdown with it, and they didn't care. They were too young to appreciate what they had. So I took my little car and I jammed things and put it on Craigslist, and people came from New York to buy beautiful pieces of furniture from me. So, not something I really want to do, but picking garbage can be fruitful at times. I haven't done it for a while. I did find an old stamp collection that somebody put out. It was a young kids from the 60s. There were 4 books. I know nothing about stamps. So I took them to a pawn shop who I deal with at times when I find silver and things like that. I trusted
Uh-huh.
them. They sent it out. They made me an offer, $350, or I could take it and sell it myself, but I would have to pay the expert that they paid to look through everything. Well,
Right.
what do you think I did? I took the $350, but you never know what's on the side of the road, too.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you for agreeing to come on the podcast and sharing your information with us. There's a lot of good information about sewing patterns and craft
Yes.
supplies.
Thank you.
Definitely, listeners, make notes. Watch for Mindy's big sales on the group.
And I'm watching everybody else's, just so
Yeah, of
you know
course.
that.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
enjoy your day. Thanks again.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And just a follow up, Mindy's Queen embroidery hoop was the cover image of the November 21st, 2024 $100 supersize video on my YouTube channel. Her sale is at the 23-minute 46-second mark if you want to go check that out. Next week, we will talk with Candace, who is an extreme couponer and overall deal queen, and uses that business model to get some of her inventory to sell on eBay. So, something a little different. And thank you, listeners, so much for hanging out with us for the last hour, and make it a great week on eBay. Bye for now.